Some things we can only dream up in nightmares, others in imagination, but people like EdGein, it was a fantasy. He was sick and twisted, and his crimes merited him the name, the Butcher of Plainfield. Gein was born in LA Cross County, Wisconsin in 1906 and was the second born of two boys. His brother was the firstborn and went by Henry Gein. The boy's father was an alcoholic and was constantly unable to get a job. Gein's mother was extremely religious and kept her kids in an echo chamber of her devout views. She would often read the boys graphic verses from the Bible and claimed all women besides her were harlots and prostitutes. If Ed was not on their 115-acre farm doing chores, he was in school. Ed was seen as a very quiet kid with strange mannerisms, and it was hard for him to make friends, but whenever he did, his mother would punish him severely. In 1940, Ed's father passed away due to heart failure, and the two boys began to take up odd jobs to cover their living expenses. Both boys worked as handymen, and by the public were considered reliable, which got Ed jobs as a babysitter. 4 years after the death of their father, Henry and Ed were on their farm burning away marsh vegetation when the fire got out of hand and the fire department was called. After the fire had been extinguished, Ed reported his brother missing, and the sheriff's department went out with lanterns to find him. They found him in the middle of the field, laying face down with severe bruising on his head and burned from the fire. The coroner stated that Henry had been dead for some time and suspected the cause of death was heart failure. The bruising on his head didn't arouse any suspicion of foul play, and Ed was barely questioned on the issue. The authorities accepted the theory that it was an accident and no official investigation or autopsy was performed. Some of the residents of the town suspected Ed had killed him and was covering it up, and Ed was questioned years later in '57 about the death of his brother. His mother soon had a paralyzing stroke after the death of her son, and Ed dedicated all of his time to caring for her. A year later in '57, she died of a second stroke at 67, and Ed was devastated by her death. Authors years later wrote that Ed was absolutely alone in the world. Gein still lived on the farm and continued taking odd jobs to keep up with the bills. He boarded up all the rooms that were touched by his mother and left them untouched for years. He gained other income from selling his deceased brother's 88-acre parcel of land. Ed soon spiraled out of control and began to increasingly become insane. '57 would be the year everything was uncovered. Bernice Rodan disappeared from a hardware store on the morning of November 16th, and the witnesses soon placed Ed being at the scene. In the morning, Frank Rodan, the son of Bernice and the deputy sheriff of Plainfield, came to the store and found the register empty and bloodstains on the floor.
November 16th, 1957. The opening day of deer season, and every able-bodied man had left for the hunt. That day, Ed Gein was to drive into town stalking his own kind of prey, Bernice Rodan, the owner of a local hardware store, a woman who reminded Ed of his mother.
So she went to look out the window when he put a shell in one of the .22s and shot her in the back of the head, and then dragged her out in the back platform, loaded her on her truck, and took her about a mile out of town into a bunch of pines and transferred her to his truck and took her back to his home.
As Ed went to work on Bernice Rodan, her son Frank, a deputy sheriff, returned from deer hunting only to discover a pool of blood in the family store. Gein, the prime suspect, was apprehended hours later after enjoying dinner at a neighbor's house.
Ed was quickly arrested, and the Gein farm was searched. Bernice Rodan's body was found in Gein's shed, hung upside down, decapitated, and dressed out like one would do with a deer. The coroner report stated that she had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, and the mutilations were done post-mortem. Authorities then searched the house. and found nightmares inside waiting for them. They found a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chair seats, skulls on bedposts, female skulls with some of the top sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso skinned from the shoulder to waist, leggings made from human leg skin, masks made from the skin of human heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's pot-bellied stove, 9 vulvae in a shoebox, a young girl's dress, and the vulvae of 2 females judged to have been around 15 years old, a belt made from female nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and fingernails from female fingers. Gein told investigators that in recent years he had been going to cemeteries at night and digging up bodies. He confessed to 9 diggings.
And some of the skin from that one woman, I probably put some oil on, possibly. That's all. You soften it up now.
What kind of oil, Eddie?
Penetrating oil.
Would you wear the rubber gloves?
With Mary Hogan, I'd stay right on it. Yeah.
How would you make the face masks?
I'd make them matches, see. I'd pack them right out with paper so they'd dry, and sometimes sprinkle a little salt on them.
Why the salt?
They turn a greenish color.
Beginning to decay?
I think that's right. You know, this cheese no good, so I'll try it out.
Just answer the questions, Eddie, and we'll get you another sandwich. So, when you went to the cemetery, did you open the entire casket or just one of the halves?
Just half.
And then slip them out?
And that's right.
I don't think he felt any guilt at all. His whole attitude was one of perplexity about what everybody was so upset about. Why is everyone so concerned? It's a matter of very little consequence to him.
After his mother's death, he began crafting a woman's suit made out of human skin so that he could be his mother. During interrogation, County Sheriff Art Schley assaulted Gein during interrogation by slamming his face into a brick wall and resulting in Gein's confession becoming inadmissible. On November 21st, 1957, EdGein was found not guilty by means of insanity. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally unfit for trial. Gein went to several hospitals alongside many trials and admitted to killing Bernice by accident and killing Mary Hogan, a tavern worker, by accident. Both doctors on the prosecution and defense stated that he was not guilty on the basis of insanity. Gein spent the rest of his life in Central State Hospital until his death in '84.
Townspeople recalled other confessions Ed made, confessions they dismissed as jokes.
In the wintertime, it got kind of boring in the afternoon, so I'd go over there and sit with whoever was tending the store. And one day, Eddie Gein was there, and Irene, and we sat around the stove and we rehashed what it might have happened to Mary Hogan. I had a brilliant idea, and I said to Irene, you know, I think I know what happened to Mary Hogan. And she said, what? And I said, well, I think Eddie ran off with her here. I said, you know, he's such a lady killer. And he laughed, and he said, yeah, and yum yum, was she good? And I said, oh my God, Ed, what a terrible thing to say.
Mary Hogan's head was recovered at the Gein farm. Ed thought she looked like his mom.
Eddie, was there any resemblance in the faces to that of your mother's?
Maybe, it could be.
Would you ever wear any of the faces over your own face?
Yeah.
Do you think you would wear the mask for a prolonged time?
Not too long. I have other things to do. Maybe about an hour or so.
Eddie, would you ever wear a pair of women's panties over your own body?
That could be.
More than just wearing women's panties. On full moon nights, Eddie danced in the skins of women. Ed Gein died in 1984. He's buried next to his mother, his father, and brother, in the same cemetery he used to rob.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell beside it and select the box. That way you'll be notified for any new videos. Also be sure to look up other Listen documentaries on our channel if you're looking for some chills down your spine. Check back on our channel routinely, for we upload every 2 to 3 days. Thank you for watching.